The legal voters of the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District, comprising the voters of the towns of Brattleboro, Dummerston, Guilford, and Putney, were notified and warned to meet at the BUHS District Number 6 Gymnasium on Wednesday, February 27, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. to conduct the business included in that warning. I now declare that the organizational meeting of the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District is open at 7:03 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the organizational meeting of this new district. The purpose of this meeting is to elect district officers, swear in the Transitional Board, and give the board the powers and duties it needs to conduct its business. You will also be asked to decide whether future votes will proceed by Australian ballot and to consider other questions related to issues that only the voters can decide. A copy of the warning articles was available on a yellow paper as you signed in with your town clerk tonight. I'm certain there are still copies in the back. If you did not get one, you may want to pick one up. The town clerks of your respective towns and/or their assistants will serve as ballot tellers and vote counters. Captain Mark Anderson and Deputy Tim Vinton from the Windham County Sheriff's Office will serve as our sergeants at arms. As you know, I'm Lyle Holliday, Superintendent of Schools. I'd like to introduce members of the Transitional Board: David Scholes and Jill Stahl-Tyler from Brattleboro, Ricky Davidson and Sean Murphy from BU number 6, Michael Roberts and Kelly Young from Guilford, Ann Beekman and Alice Laughlin from Putney. I'd like to introduce Frank Rucker, Business Administrator, and Barb Nowakowski, Executive Secretary. This evening we also have Dummerston represented, Jody Normando, and Christina Naylor. Announcements for this evening: the Swiss Exchange is offering refreshments in the lobby. They were also here for the BU6 annual meeting. Unfortunately, we had very poor attendance, so I'm sure they would appreciate a little of your business this evening. Thank you. BCTV production crew is recording the meeting for future viewing. Our sound system is provided by Rich Meyer, Be Heard Sound, and microphone passers this evening are Mira Macy and Gabe French. Mira over here and Gabe over here. To vote on articles from the warning, you must be a registered voter in the towns of Brattleboro, Dummerston, Guilford, or Putney and have passed through the checklist at the gymnasium's entrance. There, your name was checked against the list of legal voters of each town, and you received a voter card that you will show when you wish to speak or to vote from the floor. In the event that a paper ballot is requested, there are paper ballots attached to that card. You'll be given instructions at that time. Non-residents and residents of towns who are not registered voters of the towns may not vote, but may be allowed to speak with the approval of 2/3 of the assembly. During a voice vote, we request that non-residents please remain silent. Additionally, you may not raise your hands or stand if a physical count is required. We appreciate your cooperation. Minutes are being recorded for this meeting. All motions, remarks, and discussion should be addressed to the moderator. Anyone wishing to address the assembly or anyone responding to questions from the floor must state his or her full name and speak so that comments may be heard by the entire assembly. A couple of other announcements. If you are looking for a restroom, you go out the far right and continue and turn right. The restrooms are there. And I think that that is all the information you probably need for this evening. We move on to Article 1, to elect a temporary presiding officer and clerk from the qualified voters. Is there a motion? Sean? No.
How's that?
Yes.
Okay. I move that Steve Brown be nominated to serve as the temporary presiding officer, and that Barbara Nowakowski be nominated to serve as the temporary clerk of the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District Organizational Meeting.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded that Stephen Brown be elected as temporary presiding officer and that Barbara Nowakowski be elected as temporary clerk of the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District Organizational Meeting. Are there other nominations? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor of Stephen Brown as temporary presiding officer and Barbara Nowakowski as temporary clerk of the WSEUUSD Organizational Meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You have elected Stephen Brown as temporary presiding officer and Barbara Nowakowski as temporary clerk of the organizational meeting. At this time, I'd like to call on Guilford Town Clerk Penny Marine to administer the Vermont Oath of Allegiance and Vermont Oath of Office. Stephen Barb, could you please rise? Yes. Yep.
I'm not sure who to address. I think I should be addressing the moderator.
Okay. Go ahead. He's not sworn in, so he needs to take the oath first, and then you could address him?
So you are administering the oath solely to the moderator?
To the moderator and the clerk as temporary moderator and temporary clerk.
Because I don't see that on the agenda.
It should be Article 1.
I don't see the oath on the agenda.
Okay, everybody needs to take that oath before they can be presiding officers.
That's why I issued a point of order.
Okay.
So I suppose I will cede, or not cede the floor, but rescind my point of order. But I would like the incoming moderator to understand that technically this is out of order as it's not on the agenda, and we may have this discussion after you are sworn in.
Okay. Thank you. Penny, can you come forward, please?
Can you hear me? Yes. If you could raise your hand, Barb and Steve. Do you, Stephen Brown and Barbara Nowakowski, swear or affirm that you will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that you will not directly or indirectly do any act or things injurious to the Constitution or government thereof? So help you God, under the pains and penalties of perjury. Yes. The Vermont Oath of Office. Do you, Stephen Brown, temporarily presiding officer, and Barbara Nowakowski, temporary clerk, solemnly swear or affirm that you will each faithfully execute your office for the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District, and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of your judgment and ability according to the law. So help you God, under the pains and penalties of perjury. Thank you.
I'll now turn the meeting over to temporary presiding officer Stephen Brown.
Article 2. To adopt Robert's rules or other rules of order which shall govern the parliamentary procedures of the organization meeting and all subsequent annual and special meetings of the district. Do we have a motion? Was that David Scholes?
Robert's Scholes.
Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
It's It's been moved and seconded that the Windham Southeast Unified Union School District adopt Robert's Rules of Order, which shall govern the parliamentary procedures of the organizational meeting and all subsequent annual and special meetings of the district. Any discussion on the motion? Are you ready to call the question? All those in favor that the Windham Southeast Unified School District adopt Robert's Rules of Order, which shall govern the parliamentary procedures of the organizational meeting and all subsequent annual and special meetings of the district, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. The motion carries. We've passed Article 2. Mr. Davis.
Hi, my name is Andy Davis. I'm a legal voter of the town of Brattleboro. Mr. Moderator, I move that we postpone all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on April 2nd of 2019. And I would like to have a chance to speak to my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. The moderator views that motion as a motion to recess the meeting. Is there a second on the motion? The motion has been seconded. It's been moved and seconded that to postpone all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on April 2nd, 2019. I understand, Mr. Davis, you have some words?
I'll be brief. This meeting was originally scheduled to be held on January 9th. At the time it was canceled, postponed. There were actions going on in the state legally and at the legislature, and I'm not sure who made the decision to postpone the meeting at that time, but the meeting was rescheduled for tonight. I would say that nothing that caused this meeting to be moved from January 9th to February 27th has been resolved. We're in the same situation now that we were in on January 9th. Some members of this community have felt harm from the imposed solution to from the state board and have filed legal action. The legislature is still discussing this and may have weigh in on this, and it seems inappropriate to me that we would move forward with this when we're in the same situation we were the first week of January.
Any further discussion on the motion to recess the meeting until April 2nd, 2019 at 7 p.m.? If you could just wait to the mic and please state your name and your town. Thank you.
Hi, Franz Reichsman. I'm a voter here in Brattleboro, and I serve on the Town Finance Committee, which has been conducting its annual review of the budgets for the town, but also the school districts, the town school district and the high school district. And I have to say I'm a little uncomfortable with postponing the meeting because there's work to be done. And whether it should have been postponed in the first place, I don't know. And whether there should be a merger of the district, I don't know. But I do know that we have to get down to the business of creating and then passing a budget, whether it be for the unified school district, if there's no action in the courts or the legislature, or whether it be for individual school districts. However that goes, I think we have to get started on it now. And if there's action later on that prevents the merger, so be it. We'll deal with that. But I think for now, it's time to get started on creating the budgets that are needed. And I would argue that that's sufficient reason to vote against Mr. Davis's motion. Thank you.
Further discussion on the Davis motion? If you could just state your name and your town, please. Thank you.
My name is Judy Davidson. I'm from Brattleboro. And with all due respect for budgets, I think that going through the whole process of an organizational meeting will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of energy from the people that are elected. And I think that it's not fair to those people to have to go through a process perhaps later on, or to have that whole process be ruled out of order because the court decides something differently. So I would recommend that we put everything on hold until we know for sure, so we do not waste the time of people here, as well as the people that might be elected, to go through a whole process of organization. So I would speak in favor of Mr. Davis's motion to postpone.
Further discussion on the Davis motion to postpone. Gentleman in the front, please state your name and your town. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Normando from Dummerston. I believe that many of the towns have already prepared budgets, and that being the case, they are prepared to go forward with the should the court rule against a merging, that these communities are prepared to go forward financially. But however, if we do vote to proceed this evening, we will, and the court rules against this, then we'll have to untangle this mess that has been, we'll have to untangle all the organization that's being prepared. So it seems reasonable and prudent to postpone, to at least see what the court will do and if the legislature is going to undertake anything. But more importantly, at this stage of the ball game, it's the court that I think everybody is waiting to see what will happen. Thank you. And I would urge voters to postpone.
Further discussion. Gentleman in the blue jacket.
Good evening. Thank you. My name's Alon Moses from Putney. I want to speak in favor of Mr. Davis's resolution, mostly because I believe it's a resolution that promotes democracy. I think there's a lot more at stake here than simply whether we are going to pass budgets. I respect Mr. Reichsman's views. However, when looking at the overall picture, I think the state would, the tumult that is being caused by this decision, which I think was anti-democratic, is going to have repercussions. Perhaps one of those repercussions is going to be that Mr. Reichsman and everybody else who works on the financial aspect is going to have their work more drawn out. That could be one of the repercussions. But I don't think that those repercussions speak against the basic principles of democracy, which were overlooked by the districts that voted, by the boards that voted to merge against the wishes of the voters. We should either have elections that count for something or not have elections. We shouldn't have votes called and people ask, somebody else just spoke to the time. We shouldn't ask voters to come out and vote and then tell them that the votes don't matter. Thank you.
Further discussion on the Davis motion. Gentleman in the green sweater, please.
Hi, my name is Junie Pereira, Brattleboro resident. I'd like to know exactly what impact a postponement will have, other than what already been stated, maybe by the budget issues, but in terms of organizational issues, legal issues, what impact will a postponement have at this point? I don't know who is able to answer that question.
The administration is queried.
One of the impacts will be on the hiring of any new staff and the availability of teacher contracts. We cannot issue teacher contracts until there is a passed budget. That's two things that I can think of. Frank?
So
Sure.
Before Frank addresses the motion, Frank is not a resident of the district, so unless there is an objection, we would move to allow Mr. Rucker to address the floor, because otherwise his expertise would not be shared with the body. Any objection? Thank you, Mr. Rucker.
Thank you. Yes, related to being prepared to resource the public school system in, as of July 1st, based on the current law, as Mr. Reichsman has referred to, there's a very significant number of legal procedures that have to occur in order to be ready to operate a district as of July 1st. So that includes creating relationships with the various vendors. It's physically actually creating the new entity through an IRS identity, and then moving the employees from the former employers to the new employer, which means setting up new health insurance plans, dental insurance plans, making those relationships with the retirement system so that the employees are properly transferred to the new entity. So typically a year is good practice for planning to make a transition of this magnitude to a new entity. Here we are in late February, obviously much less than a year time to address all of the banking setups, the financial system that needs to be set up for the new entity. So those are some of the issues that will be compromised. We can't really begin that process until we have a legal entity with a governing board. So we cannot assume that may come together at a future date. The law provides for us to move forward with this if this meeting proceeds. If this meeting does not proceed, then everything will simply be on a hold. And it also, I don't know if any of our members who are considering, let me just make one last point. If any members considering running for office, again, it defers the ability to submit a petition. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that.
We'll take the point of clarification.
Dan Normando from Dummerston. Mr. Moderator, I'm of a different opinion, even though the esteemed non-member from the administration has made some comments. I know that with the great leadership we have with our SU here, that there's no reason why individual budgets couldn't have been prepared, and in fact they have been. The SU has actually already prepared the merged budget. But in clarification, I need to point out that the new district is, if and when it does come into existence supposedly on July 1st, it is supposed to absorb all of the existing contracts. So we are not the only district or group of districts that are going through this. As a matter of fact, many others have already done what Mr. Davis has proposed, and they've postponed these meetings. But many districts have already prepared their budgets as normal, as usual, as we have done for decades, and are ready to proceed, and those contracts will be abided by if and when the merged district ever does come around. Thank you.
Further discussion on the Davis motion? Yes, in the red sweater. If you could just wait, we have a microphone coming your way.
So I'm Jamie Comtois from Putney, and I ran for school board because this mattered so much to me. I have a 5-year-old who just started Putney Central School, and I said, hey, did we create our budget for Putney Central School so we're ready for town meeting day on Tuesday? And we're ready. So I just wanted to say that many of us at the town level are taking our responsibility really to make sure that our teachers are okay, that our students are okay, that our schools are okay, are making sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. And I just wanted to say I really support the postponement because I'm really concerned about the precedent that this sets, what's happening here tonight, and that there is still a court case that is yet to be decided on that has such a big impact on this. So I'm one of the 68% of voters in Putney who voted and thought my vote counted in November of 2017 against the merger. And I was amazed when I found out that that vote didn't matter and what impact that had on me and my family, who have bought our home in Putney, we have planted fruit trees in Putney, and we are planning to stay here and raise our babies. And I have a 1-year-old who I look forward to joining the Putney Central School family. So I ask you to consider the motion to postpone and to take up this business when we know for sure it is necessary. Because for many of us, we are dedicating our lives to this process.
Further discussion on the Davis motion. Mr. DeGray.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you people for coming out. A lot of new faces here. We've been coming here for as long as I can remember, voting on education and supporting education, and a lot of you people haven't been here. So I hope this is your first step into coming to whatever happens if we end up not having the unified district and we have our annual meeting in February, that you find a way down to this gymnasium and vote. It's kind of sad only having 15 people in here to vote on a $30 million budget. Having said that, I was embarrassed today watching what happened in Washington as an American watching our Congress enact. And I'm sitting here today and going, what's important? Education. Now, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm kind of in the middle of the road with the unification or local control. I don't think we've had local control for years and years and years. But delaying this meeting, in my estimation, and there are a couple lawyers in here, and whether the moderator, who I know is an attorney, wants to answer this question, I think that if we move forward and the court decides to exercise a stay, that this meeting becomes moot. We're having elections on town meeting day, electing school board representatives in all of our towns. We're moving forward with that, and I think that's just an aside. If something goes in a different direction, that we have school board members that are in place as of July 1. Now, I don't think anything is going to happen here between now and July 1 that if we move forward with this meeting is going to change the court process. The court is not going to decide, well, they will move forward with that meeting. I don't think that that's how they work. So the reality of us sitting here, and I got to believe that this motion is going to pass, and postponing it till April 2nd is not in the best interest of the students of our district. Moving forward with getting people to get petitions out, to go through the process, to set a potential meeting that, again, I believe would become moot if the court says we're giving you a year stay, then all of us getting here tonight are just using up good oxygen, and we'll be back here in a year when the court decides. So we're stopping a process which we may not be in favor of, but the reality is it should move forward. And if you're about education, then you say, you know what, we need to get all of these things in place, and we're going to wait for the court. Not Dick DeGray's opinion, not Andy's opinion. You know, we've had all this stuff going on. People have put in amounts of time where I think I put a lot of time in. I applaud all of those people. I don't think I could have done that. But the reality is we have this meeting set up to move forward. We have a court case going down on a parallel track, and they're going to be the ultimate deciders. And if they make a decision, and they make a decision in 3 weeks, and we've adjourned till April 2nd, we've actually heard ourselves and cut our window down in terms of when we can have the meeting, because there are statutes of how many days you can have a meeting, not more than X and not less than Y. And the closer we get to shutting that window, we end up hurting everybody who really supports education, because you don't realize what you're doing in terms of that. So I strongly ask you to defeat the motion. Let's move forward with the meeting, and let's let the court decide. And if they decide that we've got to go forward, we're in a much better place than waiting until April 2nd to start this process all over. So I hope that you would defeat Mr. Davis's motion. It's not personal. I like Andy, his great passion, and I support the people who've stood up and said, yeah, let's delay, let's delay, let's delay. But there is no gain in delaying. It's not going to change anybody's opinion. So the reality is, I hope that we would move forward with this evening. Thank you very much.
Lyle, do you want to address the pending litigation and the effect that may have on this meeting?
If we were to move ahead with the transitional board swearing in and the first meeting, and then there were an injunction, then we are prepared to present budgets at a special town meeting in each of the towns. We know that this process would be on hold until there had been a decision.
Further discussion on the Davis motion. I saw somebody on this side in the back, gray shirt.
Reed Miller, Dummerston. We have a rift, and it's been brought up a couple of times by both sides, both communities. And if we wait until this is decided, from that point on, at least we're all working in the same direction. We're all on the same team. We all have the same goal. Right now, we don't know which side of the cavern we're on. And there's been a lot of hurt and a lot of pain going through this process. And I suggest that if we allow ourselves to come together after that decision is made, then we're all working in the same direction.
I saw a hand in the very back.
Hi, my name is Eva, and I live in Dummerston. We're actually pretty new. We're from the city, from Boston. And I'm not as eloquent as a speaker as you guys, but I just wanted to say that I feel like sometimes just standing still and taking a pause and reflecting is the most forward moving. And I feel like there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered, and I think there's a lot of unkindness, and I think the most kind thing to do would be to postpone. So I ask all of my constituents to please be kind, listen to each other, and understand that this is a really, really important issue, and that if they decide to do the merger, then that's what happens. But there's nothing, we will gain nothing by just rushing this through. And I agree with, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, but I agree with that gentleman up front that if we do move this forward, that we will have to untangle this mess. So I thank you for your time, and I please ask you guys to please reflect, be kind, and if you find it in your heart, postpone.
Further discussion. Gentleman in the vest. So it's been moved to call the question. That requires a 2/3 vote. Is there a second on the motion to call the question? I see a second on the motion. Again, it requires a 2/3 vote. So all those in favor of ending debate on the Davis motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. So as moderator, I'm now going to call division of the House. So all those in favor of passing the Davis motion and adjourning the meeting. Again, I'll read the motion so everybody has that in mind. The motion is to postpone all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on April 2nd, 2019. Would all those voters who are voting in favor of the Davis motion please stand and remain standing until you've been counted. Thank you. Thank you very much. I stand corrected. So this motion is to end debate on the motion. I apologize. Thank you very much. So again, all those in favor of ending debate on the Davis motion, please rise and remain raised until remain standing until you've been counted. Thank you.
I would ask the clerk to come forward to take a count.
Do we have one of the clerks counting? Is Lori Frechette here? Okay. It's happening. Thank you. You can be seated. All those opposed to ending debate, please stand and remain standing until you've been counted. You may be seated. The motion to end debate carries. Debate is now ended. We'll now vote. The vote was 53 in favor of ending debate and 18 opposed. We'll now vote on the Davis motion. And again, the Davis motion is to postpone all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on August 2nd, 2019. All those in favor, April 2nd, 2019. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Nay. Again, we will ask for a division of the House. So all those in favor to postpone all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on April 2nd, 2019, please stand up and remain standing. $51 in favor of the Davis motion. All those opposed to postponing all remaining agenda items to a meeting to be held at 7 p.m. on April 2nd, 2019, please stand and remain standing. $51 votes in favor of the Davis motion to recess, 21 votes against. The motion passes. The meeting is recessed until April 2nd, 2019 at 7 p.m.